Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time, I'm going to be giving you guys a review of the first season of the show Z Nation, which wrapped up a few days ago. Now, I didn't do individual episode reviews of this on my channel. Instead, just because my review roster was so full, I instead did live tweets, and I was able to do that for most of the episodes this season. There were one or two episodes that came out that, for whatever reason, I wasn't able to live tweet. But I did have quite a lot of fun doing those live tweets, and I had a lot of fun with this show in general. So that's why I've decided to do this review here. So let's just kind of get right into things. Now, the main criticism I've seen leveled against this show is people are calling it like a knockoff of The Walking Dead. Well, undoubtedly, if Walking Dead wasn't one of the biggest shows on TV right now, it's pretty unlikely that this show would have ever been made. But it's not as if, zombies, people trying to survive a zombie apocalypse was invented by Walking Dead. Okay, that was in fact invented by George Romero. And now, granted, Walking Dead was basically the first that I'm aware of zombie apocalypse show on TV, but still, and even if you stop and look at it, beyond being a show about people trying to survive in a zombie apocalypse, the two shows really have very little in common. I mean, yes, the whole bits and pieces that are just part and parcel with the zombie apocalypse stories are going to be there, but the characters are all very different. Walking Dead is a very serious show, very dramatic, and Z Nation, while it does certainly have its dramatic moments, does not take itself seriously. This is meant entirely to be fun. A lot of it's campy and silly and goofy, but it's also mixed in with some genuinely decently done characters. There's character growth. As I said, there are some genuinely dramatic moments, real drama. And I have to admit, the show wraps up with a pretty darn impressive cliffhanger, which thankfully we will get to see resolved, as the show has indeed been renewed for a second season. So anyway, let's just kind of get in there and give you guys the basics if you're not familiar with the show and you're kind of thinking about checking it out. It is, as I said, zombie apocalypse show, and the idea is basically the zombie apocalypse happened about 5 years ago, and exactly how it happened is not 100% clear, although by the time you get to the end of season 1, they're starting to kind of get into what happened. And it centers around a group of survivors who stumble across a guy by the name of Murphy, who, as they are told by a military dude, is the only person who has ever survived being bitten by a zombie without being turned. And this guy now has antibodies in his system which can be used to make a cure for the whole zombie situation. Now, exactly why it is that Murphy is a survivor of a zombie bite and all this does get explained right there in the first episode, but I'm not going to get into that. Although I do have to say, I really love the fact that the military guy in that episode is played by Harold, some really French-sounding last name that I can't pronounce, who's basically just probably best known as Manny over on the show Constantine, which is another program that I really enjoy. So anyway, the basic idea is the survivors who are in upstate New York need to get this Murphy guy to a laboratory in California so they can make the antibodies and save the world. Okay, and the story of the first season is just all the stuff that happens with them trying to get from New York to California, the various other groups of survivors, both good and bad, that they meet, and a lot of zombies. And I got to give the folks at the asylum credit. They really just went out and was like, okay, we've all seen a bunch of zombie apocalypse stuff. What can we do to sort of just show people stuff that we really haven't seen before? And they come up with some pretty crazy stuff. I mean, just the fact that you actually see Amish zombies is more than a little hilarious. And they continually find, really crazy, off-the-wall stuff to throw at you and the other survivors. And I gotta say, this is certainly one of the more interesting and just good old-fashioned crazy. And I'm going to keep using that word a lot because that's a really great way to describe this show. I mean, just balls out, fun, crazy, in a good way. Entertainment. And they also do a nice job of mixing in some like genuine, like really creepy horror stuff, both in terms of the zombies and what human beings will do to each other in a zombie apocalypse, which again is part and parcel of stories like these. It's always the question is, well, are some of the humans that are still running around even worse than the zombies? And in some of those cases, the answer is pretty much always going to be yes. So let's kind of talk a little bit more about the characters. Now Murphy is actually I think he's probably the most interesting character on the show. When we first introduced him, we discovered that he was basically, before things went to hell, a petty criminal. And as time goes by, he starts to bond with the group, and eventually, when he starts off, Murphy's very angry and confrontational and doesn't want anything to do with these guys. He just sort of sees them as a means to an end, and that end is keeping him alive. But as he goes along with these guys, he sort of sees them. He sees people fight to preserve his own life. Well, that kind of starts rubbing off on him. But also, we start to see that a more ruthless side of Murphy emerge. That this is a guy who, yeah, he started to care a little bit about some other people, but he's certainly he certainly knows how to look out for number one. So it's a really interesting dynamic with Murphy. Is there are moments where you're kind of almost proud of him for learning to be less of a dick, but then there are those moments where he goes out and does stuff that reminds you that he's becoming a more and more dangerous individual every single day, for a variety of reasons. But again, I don't want to spoil it too awful much. Let's see. Another character, and I'm not going to run through the entire list because that would take quite a while, and it's really hard to talk about the characters without spoiling some stuff that I really would not like to spoil. One character that I've noticed that seems to be really popular with the fans is a young guy who goes by the name of Tenk, which is short for 10,000, because he's promised himself that he's going to kill 10,000 zombies. And he's really darn good at killing zombies. But what's interesting about him is he's just basically, it's heavily implied that this guy's still a teenager. It's not exactly clear how old he was when things sort of fell apart. But, for a guy who's spent years surviving in the zombie apocalypse, he's also oddly naive at times, which is really kind of interesting. It's sort of like I guess you could kind of say, I don't want to compare him to Carl from Walking Dead, but just sort of that younger person who still has some innocence in a zombie apocalypse world, but is also still really badass. So someone along those sort of lines is a good way to look at 10K. And there's actually this one hilarious scene where he's talking with the older survivors, and one of them sort of mentions porn. He's like, "What was porn like?" And they're like, "Huh?" And he goes like, "The world fell apart before I ever saw any." And I was like, dude, how old were you? I mean, if you were older than like 11 or 12, you probably had seen porn. But who knows? Maybe he was just from a really conservative family. It's not really made very clear. And again, it's a detail that's not really terribly important, I suppose, but still. After Murphy, though, I think the best character on the show is Roberta, and she's a woman who was in the National Guard when things fell apart, and sort of she's, because of her military training and just sort of her nature as a sort of person who falls into a leadership role, she's one of the leaders of the survivors. And Roberta's a really great character. She's strong, she's smart, but she's also a very caring person, and she's somebody who we really do get into quite a bit of depth with her. They really kind of go into her quite a bit, as she's, I think, one of the characters they focus on most this season. So you learn a lot about her past. She even visits her old home at one point during the storyline in what I actually think is one of the show's strongest episodes. That's in the first season. So you really do get to know her, and I think Roberta is a really nice example. And I hate to use this term because it's just become such a lightning rod on the internet, just such a shitstorm if you toss around the words strong female character. You know what? I kind of look at that sort of situation and say, well, is it really so important that she's female? What's wrong with just having a strong character? And I don't mean strong character in terms of just being able to beat people up. But make no mistake, Roberta's quite good at dealing out the zombie butt kicking. But as I said, she's a really well-defined character. You see moments where she's happy, where she's sad. We learn about her past. You see her dealing with things that she's afraid of. You see her dealing with loss. And the fact that all of this is really given to a black character is doubly cool. Now, again, I don't want to get into something that's such a lightning rod as race on TV, but I think we can all acknowledge that minority characters on modern television do not get the level of representation that is truly reflective of American society, and the roles that they are given to these sort of characters are, well, often less than ones that are given to white characters. And that is a sad and unfortunate fact of just modern culture. Thankfully, it seems like this is changing. Not as quickly as we'd all like, but it is changing. But as I said, it is really great to see the writers doing such great stuff with a black female character like this. I mean, I don't think outside of like Jenny and Abby over on Sleepy Hollow is any show I'm watching really doing so well with just making black ladies who are really cool and absolutely awesome characters that you totally love. Let's see, what else do we got? Well, again, there's a lot. There are quite a few characters on the show, and I don't really want to go through them all because we'd be here for quite a while. But they do take the time to sort of give everybody their moments to shine, give everybody an episode where you kind of get a chance to learn more about them, to focus in on what makes them tick. And I got to give the show a lot of credit for that. Excuse me. I also got to take a moment to say that the character of Doc is absolutely hilarious. Again, I mean, he is mostly one of the comic relief characters, but there are moments when he too gets that spotlight where you learn a little bit more about him and what his life was like before things fell apart and all that. And it's hard not to feel bad for the guy. I mean, this is a guy who's got some pain in his life and sort of uses humor and drugs to deal with it. Now, that said, I have to kind of offer up one complaint, and that's about the character of Mac. Yeah, I was never really wild about this guy, and when I got ready to do this review, I literally had to go back and double check to make sure I actually remembered what his character's name was. And even though there was basically an episode that was mostly about him, I still had in my mind he was still like guy who sleeps with the red-haired girl whose name I can never remember. The guy, not the redheaded girl. That's Abby, and she's pretty cool too. So yeah, the problem with Mac is that there doesn't really seem to be a lot beyond him and his relationship with Abby. And that's something that to me is a real sin in writing. I mean, it's perfectly okay to have somebody's relationship as a centerpiece in a story, but you don't want any character, male or female, to be entirely defined by being the other in a relationship to another character. I mean, that's just poor writing. But that said, I think that's kind of one of the few stumbles on this show. And I know that I wasn't the only person who was genuinely surprised by folks like The Asylum, who are best known for making just ridiculous schlocky movies, going out there and putting together a show that has genuine quality of this level. But I also have to give credit where credit is due. The folks behind the show have been really active on Twitter. Just me doing those live tweets, I've kind of interacted a little bit with one of the actors, the fellow who is the editor of the show, one of the producers, and I got to give like I said, it always scores big points with me when the people behind the scenes really take the time out to go out there on the social media, interact with the fans, joke around with them, live tweet, and just have fun with it. That shows that they care. And for whatever its flaws might be, it's hard to deny that the people who made this show did did not okay, I'm going to try and speak clearly. You can't look at the show and the way the folks behind it act on social media and not think these guys really care. They really do believe in this show. They really busted their butts to try and make this the best show that they could. And even though the show's not perfect, it's still really, really fun. I mean, yes, there are some dark moments, there are dramatic moments, there are sad moments, but at the end of the day, this is a show that's just like says to you, you know what? We love zombie apocalypse stories. We're going to go out there and we're going to tell you a wild, crazy, off the wall, fun zombie apocalypse story, but we're not going to turn this into a comedy. This isn't going to be a satire, really. We're going to put enough depth and drama in there that you genuinely feel for these characters, that you genuinely care about these characters, and we're going to do all of that and never take ourselves too seriously. And if you stop and think about it, that's a tall order, especially for Hollywood, where taking itself too seriously is kind of an art form. But this show pulls it off. Again, I genuinely was not expecting this show to be as good as it was, and I have to give a lot of credit to the people at the asylum, and the actors and everybody else, for really proving me wrong. I mean, good job, guys. You created a genuine quality product that I really enjoy, and I would totally recommend to you, the viewing audience, you wonderful YouTube people who have taken the time out of your day to watch me talk about this show. So I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. At the end of the day, Z Nation, if you like zombie apocalypse stories, cool. This show should do it for you. If you just sort of like crazy kind of off the wall comedy stuff, yeah, this show will do it for you. And hey, if you're even just looking for something to sort of fill the void until Walking Dead comes back proper, well, this show will do that for you too. But in any case, Z Nation is a strong enough show that it can stand on its own and is definitely worthy of a look, and, in my opinion, more than a little bit of respect. So with that said, guys, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Please do. As I said, I enjoy doing live tweets, and hopefully you guys can join me for one of those sometime. I do tend to announce them beforehand because it doesn't really make sense not to. So until next time, guys, take care and have a good one.